5.5.
The perception that being happy is all about thinking positively creates a burden of expectation on people. It can mean that negative emotions such as anger, sadness, envy and guilt are seen as not just undesirable but unhealthy. In my book, The Positive Power of Negative Emotions, I argue that these emotions are not only normal, but they may also be pathways to deeper and richer forms of well-being if we can only harness them. Firstly, anger can be a force for good. Much of what we label anger is actually frustration that life isn't going our way. Our irritation at a traffic jam or an uncooperative laptop. We can learn from it. Our annoyance at the traffic may lead to the realization that we are overstressed and prompt us to make changes. When anger is truly about a sense of moral injustice, it can be harnessed for good, as the history of civil rights and feminism shows. There's a distinction between feeling angry and being angry, and this is important to teach our children. If you feel angry, step back and examine why. Then act to solve the problem. But being angry is almost always unhelpful and destructive. It's very important to tease those two apart. Next, it's important to realize that boredom unlocks creativity. Being bored clears space for reflection. Sitting on a train staring out of the window lets you reflect, how am I? Am I living the life I wanted? The theory of relativity came to Einstein while he was daydreaming. Until recently, it was thought that the brain winds down when not engaged in a task. But neuroscientists now believe that there is a type of interconnected brain activity that clicks into gear when we are not focused, and which is important for creativity and innovation. The third thing to remember is that guilt motivates us. Guilt can serve as a moral emotion, a motivating force that helps us to become better people. We can turn it into a learning experience if we pause to unpick exactly why we are feeling guilty. Where did we go wrong? Why did we behave the way we did? It's only when we reflect on our errors that we develop and grow as people. Don't beat yourself up about a past action, but take future opportunities to do better. Fourthly, envy helps us achieve our goals. There are two types of envy. The hostile and corrosive kind that social media often induces, and the envy which is similar to admiration and inspires us to lift ourselves up to that level. Sometimes it's only by envying someone else that you clarify your own values and goals. There are two ways to make our envy a useful motivational force. The first is to focus on ourselves rather than the target. How can we attain what they have? The second is to realize when the goal is unattainable and turn the envy towards an achievable outcome. Envying someone's material possessions is understandable, but studies show that greater wealth does not generally lead to happiness. It is better to envy those with greater social capital, large friendship networks and a sense of community. Next, loneliness needn't be painful. Sometimes loneliness acts as a prompt to reach out and connect with more people. At other times, it's a matter of reframing loneliness as solitude, which is something quite different. This involves learning to appreciate the value and beauty of aloneness, rather than trying to solve it through a continual search for company. Finally, sadness gives us space. There's an increasing tendency among doctors to view sadness as a disorder and medicalize it as mild depression. However, the regular levels of sadness most of us feel at some point can serve valuable functions. The pain of sadness has a protective role. We withdraw. We signal our sadness to loved ones so they care for us. Then we begin to recuperate by re-evaluating the circumstances that brought us to this low ebb. Sadness can create the time and space for this essential process of questioning, which is why we tend to experience epiphanies at low points.